so white fibers connective tissue, the fibroblasts, these little cells in between, secrete the collagen fibers, forming strong rope-like structures like in between bones, ligaments, and holding muscle to bone tendons. I actually found quite a while ago a beautiful picture of this joint. And I was going through old emails, because I email stuff to myself. And I was going through old emails last night, but I'm going to add that on later. It's really, really nice. In fact, I can put it into the movement section which we're doing next. Okay, then so remember, we're always thinking of how is this tissue modified? How is it different? How is its matrix different? And what cells and fibers does it produce? So here, there's not much matrix. Do you agree? Phones away, please. Phones away. Do you agree there's not matrix? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
But if you remember here, areolar tissue, it's a fully tissue with lots of matrix in between and the cells secreting collagen and yellow elastic fibers. So when we look at this one, there's not much matrix, but there's a lot of collagen fibers. The cells are secreting those fibers. Alright, and we talked about how you can break tendon ligaments. Then we move on to cartilage, but there's actually 3 types. Phones away, please. Okay, phones away. Alright, where's my box? What was it?
Ma'am, it's called
Device detention. We're going to have to use that again.
But ma'am,
But don't take it out. Okay, so cartilage, there's 3 types, but we don't go into all that detail. Hyaline cartilage was the most common one and found where? Come on. Hyaline cartilage, the grassy one, quite strong. Yeah, over the ends of bones, like the gristle on a chicken wing. So here are my 2 bones. Alright, I'll just wash my hands afterwards. So here. Yeah, I picked them up on the grade 10 camp or grade 9 camp.
From what animal?
Probably cows, but. Okay.
What if it's human?
Don't take your phone out. Okay. Alright, so hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage covers the ends of bones. How do you recognize it? Under the microscope. Yes, it's been stained, but how do you recognize it? Sorry?
Looks like eyes.
Looks like little eyes. What are those little circles? Okay, the little space in which they're suspended in their own little pond is called a lacuna. What is suspended in the little pond? The cells. And they secrete? What is the stuff in between called?
The matrix.
The matrix. And what is the matrix made of?
Proteins and fibers.
Proteins and fibers. So this cartilage over the ends of bones would be quite strong. So what kind of fibers would be secreted?
Collagen.
Collagen fibers. Would there be some yellow elastic fibers?
Yeah.
Well, think of a chicken bone, hey? That gristle. We call it the gristle over the end. Okay, when you cook it, it gets softer, but it's still got to be quite strong, so collagen, but there would still be some yellow elastic fibers. What else would make the matrix rubbery and harder than tendons and ligaments? Salts and other proteins. So chondrin, for example, the protein that makes up cartilage, which I did not ask you to do the word, learn the word. If you go to a chemist, maybe you see all the supplements that you can take if you get arthritis when you get older, supplements to prevent arthritis, and maybe they've got names based on chondrin or something like that. Yes?
yeah.
That's what they do. Hi.
Hi ma'am, I'm so sorry, but please may I use one of your desks and chairs for this lesson?
Yeah.
Desk and a chair, I'm short one there, somebody took it out of my classroom.
Okay, that's a small one. Is that okay?
Yes. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, be tough.
I'm strong like hawks.
Okay, so the matrix is secreted and it's much, can you see it's more dense, forming cartilage. Then you get other types of cartilage. So what was this cartilage?
The hard one.
Okay, this is the nice hard one over the ends of bones. More flexible, look, ouch. What is this? And this?
No, that's a soft one.
So hyaline cartilage over the ends of bones, and this one's got more collagen fibers,
White fibers.
but not as hard as hyaline. White fibrous cartilage. So you get white fibrous connective tissue, tendons and ligaments. White fibrous cartilage, which has got collagen, but I can bend it, so it's also got Elastic fibers. I feel like Dumbo. Okay, and then here,
That's the soft one.
so more which fibers? Yellow elastic
Yellow
fibers. Okay, remember that. So there's hyaline cartilage, ends of bones and the rings around your trachea and so on. White fibrous, more flexible. Yellow elastic, even more flexible. Okay, doesn't even feel like there's cartilage in here. And as you get older, get very long. Okay. All right, and also we did not go into all the detail about the other types, but you were aware of it. Explain that.
That's the arthritis.
With, yes, you get osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, but we'll do that later. Okay, so this is quite nice because now we're moving on to bone. So here, they've cut through part of the bone so that you can see, go away. There's a very hard bone on the outside. So that is called, on the board. I wrote things down while you were watching the video.
Yeah, the compact bone.
The compact bone. And, okay, we'll get to that just now, but inside it looks like there are spaces. So that is called spongy bone. And then you can see how the head of the femur is lined by cartilage, but also this cup. I can't remember, I know this one at the top is called acetabulum, glenoid cavity, I think. Right, so that cup is called the glenoid cavity into which the head of the femur fits and rotates, and they're both lined by cartilage. Does anyone watch, what's that guy's name? The doctor from England who does all the orthopedic operations on dogs. Very famous guy, and he does all these hip replacements, and it's quite amazing.
Chicago Med.
No, it's not Chicago. Is that on again?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go watch. Okay.
Anyway.
That's kind of
Sorry? From what I understand, that is the whole ligament capsule and everything that's holding that humerus in place. If you damage that rotator cuff, I know Miss Van Square had that damaged hers, she had lots of problems. That whole covering of the joint. Because remember, the joint is covered by a whole capsule. Okay, not just like what we see there. All right, so we were talking about cartilage and where it's found, and other regions where you might get elastic cartilage between the pubic bones. So it's a little bit more stretchy there, so that when women give birth. And then they said at the top here, the epiglottis is the white fibrous one. Oh, it's elastic. Sorry, it's elastic. And there it's yellow, white fibrous. Okay, I've looked at different sites and they say this and this. Maybe it's a combination, just like our ears are a combination. So when sites are saying different things and I can't remember it well, you know what, then you don't need to remember stuff like that off by heart just for the sake of it. So I don't ask all of that, because I think it's quite confusing. Okay? Alright, and then we talked about the joint cartilage, so in between your joints, that hyaline cartilage, the stronger one. Now going back here, while that video was on, and yes, it was quite confusing and all the big words, but I wrote down the stuff that we need to be aware of. So compact bone, here, there's compact bone. They've cut through the bone, and it's really, really hard, just like when they make buildings out of concrete and those steel rods. Do you remember they showed that on the video? The steel rods and then concrete around? Okay, so compact bone is almost like that because it's made up of Haversian systems. Alright, we'll get to that. And in the middle is a canal. Can you remember what runs, I don't know if they mentioned what runs through the canal? The bone's living, so it needs to get things and get rid of things. Sorry? Well, blood vessels and capillaries, becoming smaller capillaries, and you can even feel pain. So what else is running through the middle? Nerves. Alright? And it's a living tissue. So just like cartilage, there are bone cells in, what's a lacuna or a lacuna? Like a little space, a little cavity with fluid. Alright? And what are those bone cells doing? They are secreting the matrix. We'll get to red blood cells now. But the bony matrix is going to be really, really hard. What will make bone, this matrix, much harder than this? What will make bony matrix hard? Lots and lots of salts. Will there be collagen fibers? Yes. And yellow elastic, although most of them they say lots of collagen fibers. So there's going to be lots of salts and even a protein. So here I called it chondrin, just out of interest, and the protein made by the cells to make bone is called ostein. So anything osteo something means bone. Osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, all of that. Alright, but now these little bone cells, think of them in their little cavities, they've got to talk to their neighbors. So there were little canals called?
Canaliculi.
Yeah, so they said it weird. It was, I can't remember the way they pronounce it. I just say canaliculi. Okay? And the bone tissue, this hard bone tissue, those rings of bone, okay, they are called lamellae. And yes, the lamellae are made of the matrix, okay, made of collagen and salts and proteins and whatever. All right, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm just jogging your memory. Then, inside here, that is called,
Spongy bone.
not so hard, but it had all these crisscrossing like bridges. I know they call them trabeculae and other things. Okay? So spongy bone, it's not solid, but what is made in spongy bone, especially, you know, the head regions of the bone. You learned this in mitosis. Sorry? Yeah, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are made inside here. Okay, I haven't got to cut through. Alright, but inside here, it would be spongy bone. Not as hard, with lots of trabeculae, little crisscrossing bony. Okay, and yeah, and that's the bone marrow. So that would be the bone marrow. But hang on, you also get bone marrow in the middle here. Here you can see as well. So in the head region, it's spongy bone marrow where blood cells are made, but you even get a marrow cavity inside long bones. It's called the yellow bone marrow. Yes? That's what we eat, hey, from soup bones. Okay, this taping. Alright, so let's move on to bone. So, you know, this is where you need to just concentrate a bit, but don't get confused. Did anyone try this?
We're studying for math, man.
Sorry?
I think we're all studying for math.
Okay.
I'll try this afternoon because we don't have any more tests.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a picture of it now? Or should
I'll
I?
take a picture of it.
I'll send it by email or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Alright. So now we're looking at bone tissue. So this has got the hardest matrix of all, and there are bone cells called osteoblasts. And even watching that video, they talk about what is it, osteoclast and
Blasts and then osteocytes.
Yeah, and then one, because the bone, you know, it gets replaced all the time. So the bones I have today are not the same as the ones I was born with. In fact, when I was born, most of my bones were still cartilage. You know that, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so and you'll see that later. So as the child grows, we say that the cartilage ossifies, osteo, bone, okay, becomes more bony as you grow, all right, as you get older, and then it replaces all the time. It's a living tissue. Just like the cells lining your trachea or your esophagus are breaking off and, you know, reforming inside your mouth. The cells breaking off and new ones moving to the surface. Here as well, epidermis. So your bones break down and get rebuilt all the time. It's not the same tissue, not the same cells and the fibers and everything. It's a living tissue, which most people don't actually know about. Alright? So, like I've shown over there, there's the head region, and inside there, so that's where the spongy bone marrow is found. In the middle, the hollow, is where yellow marrow is found, and that's where fat and white blood cells are stored. Alright? And if you look here, there's the spongy bone, but obviously now it's not red because the tissue has died, but you can see these this crisscrossing lattice work. It reminds me of a bridge, okay? Like San Francisco Bridge or something like that. And there you can see the marrow cavity in the middle where the yellow marrow is found. Alright. Do you remember from mitosis, this little line going across? Sometimes it's straight. What was that called again? Epi?
Isn't it a plate that makes growth and then if you damage it, they have to like check otherwise your legs
Yeah.
will grow?
Okay, so that epiphyseal plate is where mitosis grows to make the bone grow longer. Remember that? And at age 16 or 18 for boys, 16 for girls, roundabout, then that plate closes, which means it stops dividing, so you are as tall as you will ever be.
Oh no!
Oh!
This is it, baby.
About 16, 17, 18 or so for guys.
Oh, God.
My mom's screamed only grew when she was like 17. Like she was
Really?
short and then she grew to like 5
I'm fine.
Yeah, it depends. roundabout, on average, 16 to 17 for ladies, 18 to
Boys stop growing
19
until they're like
for
21
guys.
or something.
Sorry?
I heard boys only stop growing until they're
Still,
still
yeah, I also heard that.
That's like an average. Okay.
Boys
All right, so now, if you cut through that shaft region there, there's the compact bone. And there's the bone marrow inside. Yeah, that's what we like to eat, the fat. And what all right, but here you can see some spongy bone, and even lining the inside of that shaft, that transverse cross section through the shaft, there is a little bit of spongy bone here, but not much. It's lots and lots of compact bone. So we need to figure out how is the bony tissue laid down to make that. Yes.
Ma'am, sometimes like if my mom will make, I don't know, like a lamb shoe or something, and there'll be like those little round things, but the bottom of it will be solid. So is that maybe like closer to the top where the red blood cells are?
Yeah.
Because it's solid, like you can't break through it, it's got like all these tiny little...
Yeah, little trabeculae, those little crisscrossing, not fibers, they're not, it's like strands.
It's almost like bone strands, I don't know what...
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They're called trabeculae, but I'm not asking to learn that word. All right, so that's why I put this in, okay? So now we have to figure out, and this is what the video was trying to explain, how the compact bone is formed. So you've got to imagine these little cells making the matrix, but they make it in little circles, just like, where's my tree? Where's it gone? Oh, where's my nice one gone? My nice, oh, I think it might be in the middle here. You remember my tree? Oh, here it is. This thing. So new annual rings get made every year. So rings of bony matrix get made as well. Alright? So one of these systems, okay, now we're going to try and orientate ourselves. This is quite difficult. So, oh, what they mentioned in the video as well, so there's a periosteum. Sometimes when you make a stew with bones, then you can actually peel a membrane off the outside, like here. You can peel off a membrane. That's called periosteum. I'm not asking you to learn it. And that's where the blood vessels and nerves go in there are little gaps here. They go in and then down through the bone tissue, and then lining the inside. So here, there's also a membrane, but it's called, what is inside? Endosteum. There. But I'm not asking you to learn it. Okay? So now we need to figure out how is this compact bone made. So they've taken out a tiny little triangular sliver, like a piece of cake, and there it is. So it's made up of what we call Haversian. This is a Haversian system. It's concentric rings of bony tissue that is secreted by the cells. So what I usually do is I grab papers. So these are my lamellae, and I make a cylinder. Oh wait, I've had a nice one here. Here we go. All right. So there's lots of little layers. There it is. So imagine now I can pull out the layers. Okay. So all the white here is matrix, but there are little bone cells in little cavities. And what were the cavities called again? Lacunae. So they are sitting in their little cavity and they're secreting this bony tissue in layers, just like the annual ring, well, not just like, similar to the annual rings of a tree. So you'd find lots of these all over here, secreting the matrix in layers. Does that make sense? It's quite hard to imagine, but yeah. And then you can see, this bone looks solid. Oh, this one here, it looks solid, looks like nothing can get in. Okay, this one is a bit damaged. But there are these little canals traversing through, and then they become the canal in the middle there. Alright? So these are the lamellae. They're made up of bony matrix. Okay, it's water and salts and collagen and what proteins and so on. But in the middle is a canal. So those canals, they're not shown here, but they link up. So that allows blood vessels and nerves to pass through the bone because it's a living tissue. And yes, they've got funny names like Falkman's canal. I'm not asking you to learn that. Just Haversian canal in the middle of a concentric ring of the lamellae, the matrix with the little bone cells in between. Okay, that's it. That's why this outer part here is so hard. So it's lots of these, lots of them, okay, forming that bony matrix, and you'll see, oh wait, we can see it here, look, quite a few of them here. But towards the middle, there might be some spongy bone. Okay, they haven't shown that very clearly there. And the cross section, very nice under the microscope, so we will have a look at it. So there's one hair version system. In the middle of the canal, concentric rings of bony tissue, lamellae, and you can see where the little lacunae where the cells would be. I can't see the cells. And these little channels connecting the bone cells. What are they called again? Little channels, little canals. Canaliculi, or canaliculus is one. Here you can see as well. Look, canaliculi, the lacuna with bone cell, hair version canal. Maybe that's the artery, the nerve, or whatever running through.
So
Okay.
now when the circle first starts, is the cell in the middle that makes a ring and then lots of cells around it, or how does it
I
start?
think it would start, there are cells, so the cartilage ossifies. So those little cells in cartilage would start making a different protein and it gets made in layers. Just like sclerids. Do you remember sclerids?
Yeah.
Somewhere here. Okay, yeah, so layers get made. It's quite amazing how it happens, that it becomes so organized. So cartilage ossifies, becomes bone tissue. I know I've got more of that later when we do movement. So there's a nice one. I use your slide. The man very kindly put some color on here of the ones that you need to know. Alright, so that's a cross section through the bone. Alright, you can see this one's got more spongy bone, and the marrow would be here, and there's the compact bone, and there would be a membrane outside and a membrane lining the inside. We don't need to know. Alright, you can see how the blood vessel and nerves enter and pass through all these canals. Okay, there's one hair version system with blood. They haven't got nerves here, but artery veins and nerves becoming capillaries, because every single cell needs to get oxygen, etc. Concentric rings are called lamellae, and then the little bone cells are linked by, well, these little spidery things are the canaliculi. Or in the video they called it osteon, hey? One hair version system is an osteon, alright? And what else do I have here? So there's lots of hair version systems here, lots and lots of them. Trabeculae of spongy bone, more loose. Okay, last one, the next slide is actually really nice. Look at this. We didn't have stuff like this. When I was at school, we were lucky if we didn't even have a 3D picture. We maybe had that and that. Now you're going to try and put that together. So it's very nice to have all these wonderful images that we see on the internet now. It just makes everything so much easier. Okay, so this is quite nice. Look at that membrane on the outside. Look how the blood vessels in and out. There's a nerve. Okay, you tell me now. What's this called? Hair version system made up of rings called lamellae, layers. Alright, artery, nerve, and artery and vein, artery and nerve. Alright. Oh, what type of bone is this? Spongy. What type of bone is this? Compact bone. Okay, so we've got hair version system with concentric rings of bony tissue, lamellae. What's the canal in the middle called? Big canal where the nerves and the blood vessels pass through. Hair version canal. Alright, then if you take just that little part out, what is that? Okay, there's the lacuna. This is the bone cell. So they call it osteocyte. Osteobone site cell. Alright, what are these little channels connecting up to other bone cells? The pretty word, canaliculi. Alright, look at that. Look at how that little sliver has been taken out and magnified.
So, ma'am, the blood vessels and nerves sit inside the hair version canal.
Well, they pass through these horizontal canals and up the hair version canals and across, and like a system of pipes going through the bony tissue. Because it is living and those cells need nutrients and they need to get salts to lay down in your bony tissue. I always talk about bank your bones. Are we on our phones again? Okay, you must bank your bones now, especially the ladies. What am I meaning?
No idea, ma'am.
You must bank your
You
bones.
eat lots of calcium because when you're older, your bones are getting
You don't want to get osteoporosis. Okay, so I think I've got some slides here, even though it relates to the next section. Okay, we'll get there. So microscopic slides, there the medley with all those minerals and fibers and proteins making it hard. This is really nice. Now you can really see those little Canadian cuties. Okay, very pretty. All right, now there's a little summary. I actually made it. Now I took out the words that they don't need to know. So you can go through that, because you know there isn't the textbook a little bit later on, but I think this is nice. So you can go through there and make sure that you've understood what we've done today. Okay? All right, and there as well. So this is quite nice because it shows the spongy bone in the head region. All right, and yeah, we covered all of that. I have put this new one onto Google Classroom already. All right, so osteoporosis, that's the one that men as well, you get as you age because of your hormone changes. So unfortunately, ladies, we need estrogen, and what's the other one? Okay, we do have some testosterone, males have more, but we've also got progesterone. And all of those control menstruation and pregnancy and all of that. So we need that in our lives. Unfortunately, if you're exposed to too much of it, we get breast cancer. Okay, and then when you hit menopause, then suddenly you have hardly any hormones, and then your bones become brittle. So osteoporosis is caused by fluctuating levels of estrogen and progesterone. So that's why you need to bank your bones now, okay, because you've got lots of estrogen and progesterone, and it will help your bones save calcium and all the other minerals. And if you don't, and you need to exercise. Okay, because all those minerals, okay, you need to exercise to make your bones strong, and those minerals is about 65% of the bone mass, all right? And you want to prevent getting osteoporosis when you're older.
I swear, in my next life, I want to come back as a man.
So easy.
No, I don't think so.
So easy.
I'm happy. I'm quite happy. All right. Okay, so osteoporosis, you can see how the spongy bone becomes very, what's the word?
Like the bumps just like bigger.
Yeah, there's more spaces, hey? There's much more spaces. And that's what happens as you age. Oh, now this one's swapped around. I actually need to turn that picture around. So here's the normal bone, there's osteoporosis. That healing's for there, that healing's for there. And you can see as women age, and even men, how they lose centimeters, because not only are they vertebral, the cartilage discs shrinking, becoming flatter, but their bones are also, compressing. My mom, okay, look, we're not very tall, but my mom's shorter than me, but I remember my mom's mom. I'm not that tall, but she could fit under my arm here. Okay, but she was quite strong. That lady walked everywhere. Okay, but I can see with my mom-in-law how she's getting osteoporosis, because you can see that arching of the back and how the bone becomes less dense. And it's quite serious, because when they fall, because this bone here is very porous, if you say over 80 usually, if they fall, what do?
They break a bone.
They break a hip. And sometimes that's quite dangerous, because there's lots of arteries here, and they die just from a broken bone. And then if they do survive, they're convalescents. They're getting better. It takes a very, very long time. All right, we're nearly there. Right, so yes, you go and have one of these. I've had, I think, 2. Right, yes, I am older. So when I was 40, I had my first one, and they said my bones were like a 25-year-old. And I think I've had one since then. All right. So they're checking to see the density here, and that's what I'm saying, bank your bones now. So if you're not doing exercise and eating foods rich in calcium and that, your body only stores as much calcium as it needs, and the rest you pee out. So you can take calcium tablets till, the cows come home, but your body can't store extra calcium. So it's quite expensive to urinate it out. What else? Oh, and calcium causes kidney stones and stuff. I think it's gut as well.
Ma'am, how do you bank your bones if you pee out the excess calcium?
Your body will save enough. And if you're exercising and strengthening, your bones will become harder. So like mountain climbers and people who work physically will have stronger bones than other people.
Swimming doesn't really change the bone density.
Sorry?
Swimming doesn't really change the bone density.
Yeah, because then you're more supported. But as walking and picking up things, David, lots of exercise while you're young will help you to bank your bones. All right, so that was a long talk. We're not going to have long talks now, except for the tissue. Tomorrow, right, we'll go over the test, and I've given you that labeling worksheet, where you're going to look on Google to see the color. You're going to start labeling those tissues. We need to do blood, fat, muscle, and nerve. So I'm thinking by the end of next week we'll be done. Okay. All right, the bell going now. No. We just start picking up.
Ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am. This
We
is,
have 8 minutes.
ma'am, just,
Seriously?
Ma'am,
That's not my problem. What's your
ma'am, this,
No.
ma'am, come on, please,
Excuse me?
please.
I thought it was 1 o'clock.
Ma'am, it's math.
So, it's bio.
I know, ma'am, but like, it's just, ma'am, you know math, it like, it goes to osmosis and that stuff. Ma'am, come on.
Trauma.
Oh, wait, ma'am.
I'll see if I can find it.
Ma'am, we can do it
Now
tomorrow.
we can finish watching that video because we didn't finish watching
Yes,
it.
although it was nearly done. I'm just looking for a sheet like that. I look for one. Alright.
Parallel life is amazing, right?
Yeah,
And
because
it's
you have to,
something kind of
if you're
difficult.
yeah, I think that you say you have to so hard. Like I have.
How much time do we have?
If you
Some way point here.
if you're proving a parallel line, then you have to prove angles equal.
We have to
Yeah. We're conversing.
So then you're doing
None of the videos was going to be worksheets that we need.
I don't know why.
That one,
When you not, you can when there's no
If you
direction,
didn't see it, you don't see what this is not something that you can say. You don't see, you get it, if you don't. If you don't.
if you can't see the angle, then you
How
can't
come
see
I'm
what
going
you
to
see.
yesterday? That's in guide me, yo. That's my question.
Ma'am told us in class that guys will do that intersection as well.
Yeah, she told
Because
us.
girls are more like
Exactly.
logical and they like understand.
Oh, why?
You don't
That's
see
got me
this
to
like, see the,
Yeah.
you can't see alternate angles, like you don't get
You don't see it. That's
sometimes
something I
obviously
see.
in class, and Maddie will be like, yeah, it's this, and this, and I'm like,
Ash,
that's me,
Ash can do one sum with the whole thing.
Yeah.
The other side.
And then, what's the best Aaron, like, we all have this fancy word, just like, it's two round, it's one. Because it's so fast.
Now you know why.
Alright. Let's watch it again. Maybe you'll make more sense.
Man, I think we were about halfway.
Should we watch it again? Because I think we'll make more sense. Guys, shush, watch. Shush. So that's on. Now.
large part, these impressive the structural parts, which some have compared to the reinforced concrete used to make buildings. One of the first steps in constructing a building is putting in place a frame containing long steel rods and then pouring cement around the rods. The ultimate result, a structure that is both strong and resilient. In much the same way, the spongy, mesh-like inner layer of bones provides resiliency, while the minerals that surround it, including calcium and phosphorus, provide strength. The outer layer of bone tissue, found primarily in the shaft of long bones like the femur or tibia, is known as compact or cortical bone. It consists of closely packed osteons, which are the fundamental functional units of most compact bones.
A version system.
It is the close packing of osteons that gives bone the appearance of being a solid mass. Osteons are roughly cylindrical structures, typically several millimeters long and about 0.2 of a millimeter in diameter. They are sometimes referred to as Haversian systems, named for Clopton Havers, the 17th century British physician who first observed and described these canal-like structures. The osteon consists of several components, including a central canal called the osteonic.
I just wanted to say one thing. So they're called, please get off the phone. They're called Haversian systems because they're named after someone who writes it with capital letter, just like Golgi body after Ernst or whoever he was, Golgi. Okay.
Or Haversian canal. Inside this canal is a layer of connective tissue called the endosteum,
Membrane.
which contains nerve fibers and blood vessels. Still other canals in the osteon, known as Volkmann's canals or perforating canals, connect the blood supply and nerves to the periosteum, which covers the surface of bones. Found within spaces of the osteon, known as lacunae, are mature bone cells called osteocytes. They are joined together by very narrow canals known as canaliculi in order to facilitate the distribution of nutrients and the
What did he say?
Canaliculi.
Canaliculi, I think it sounds better.
elimination of waste. Canaliculi radiate outward like the spokes of a wheel. Surrounding the Haversian canal are concentric rings or lamellae of what's known as bone matrix, a combination of calcified intercellular ingredients. These ingredients include organic matter, chiefly collagen fibers, as well as inorganic matter in the form of what's called hydroxyapatite, which consists of crystals of calcium phosphate. It is the association of hydroxyapatite with collagen fibers that is responsible for the hardness of bone. Filling the interior of the bone is trabecular bone, also known as cancellous or spongy bone. Trabecular bone is far lighter and more porous than compact
You
bone.
can see the yellow bone marrow as well.
The difference in density is especially striking. Compact bone comprises 80% of the total bone mass of an adult skeleton, despite the fact that trabecular bone accounts for far more surface area. Trabecular bone does not contain osteons, is usually found at the end of long bones, and is normally surrounded by cortical bone. Trabecular bone is composed of a lattice or network of
Okay, so it's not yet. But I think you're understanding it a bit better, yes?